Maya had never planned for her life to turn out the way it did. 6 years ago, after a charity gala she had been invited to by a friend, she remembered only having a few drinks and later waking up in a luxury hotel room beside a man she had never met before. She left quickly, embarrassed and confused, without asking questions or leaving a note. Weeks later, she discovered she was pregnant, and though shocked and scared, she decided to keep the baby. She raised her son, Liam, alone, never knowing who the father really was or if he would ever care to find out. For years, she worked tirelessly between 2 jobs, determined to give Liam a decent life. She buried that memory of the hotel room deep inside her heart, convincing herself it was just one mistake in a moment of weakness. What she didn't know was that the man beside her that morning wasn't just anyone. He was one of the richest and most influential billionaires in the city. And fate, as unpredictable as always, was about to force them back into each other's lives. It was a sunny afternoon when Maya's boss asked her to attend a corporate fundraiser at the city's grandest hotel. She had recently been promoted at the small marketing firm she worked for, and her boss insisted she represent them with pride. Maya almost refused, not being fond of such fancy gatherings, but she couldn't say no. Liam was at school, so she decided to go. Dressed in her simple but elegant black dress, she entered the ballroom filled with men in suits and women in sparkling gowns. As she scanned the room, her eyes froze on a familiar face at the far end. It was a face she had seen only once, in the most unforgettable morning of her life. The tall man, sharply dressed, was giving a speech on stage, commanding attention with every word. Her chest tightened, her palms grew sweaty, and she suddenly knew, he was the stranger she had woken up next to 6 years ago. Maya's heart pounded as she tried to calm her racing thoughts. She kept asking herself, could this really be him? His name, announced proudly by the host, echoed through the speakers, Alexander Steele, billionaire investor, CEO of Steele Enterprises, and the guest of honor. The name meant nothing to her 6 years ago, but now it carried weight. Everyone in the room was whispering in admiration, clapping for his achievements, and yet, all she could think of was the morning she slipped out of his hotel bed unnoticed. She gripped her glass tightly, not sure whether to run or stay. Deep inside, a storm of emotions raged: fear, guilt, curiosity, and the secret she had kept for so long, her son. Alexander's piercing gray eyes scanned the room as if searching for something, and Maya quickly turned away, hoping not to catch his attention. But she had already been noticed. After his speech, Alexander moved through the crowd with confidence, shaking hands and greeting people like a man used to power. Maya tried to slip toward the exit, but her boss intercepted her, pulling her closer to the center of the room. Before she could escape, she heard a deep, commanding voice behind her. "Excuse me, miss," Alexander said, his tone polite yet firm. Maya froze, turning slowly to face him, her heart threatening to burst out of her chest. Up close, he was even more striking than she remembered, with sharp features and an air of authority. His eyes narrowed slightly, as though he was trying to place her face in his memory. "Haven't we met before?" he asked, his voice low but filled with curiosity. Maya's lips parted, but no words came out. In that moment, she realized the truth was too big to hide forever. She forced a smile, shaking her head, hoping he would let it go. "I don't think so," she whispered, her voice trembling slightly. But Alexander wasn't convinced. There was something about her that tugged at his memory, something he couldn't shake off. He leaned closer, lowering his voice. "You seem familiar. Like someone I shouldn't have forgotten." Maya's chest tightened. Every instinct told her to run, but her legs wouldn't move. She thought of Liam waiting at home, his innocent smile, his bright gray eyes that looked so much like Alexander's. She prayed he wouldn't notice the resemblance if they ever crossed paths. "Perhaps I'm mistaken," Alexander finally said, though his gaze lingered longer than necessary. Maya exhaled shakily, thinking she had narrowly escaped the truth being exposed. But fate had another plan. 2 days later, Maya was walking Liam home from school when she saw the sleek black car parked near the gate. Her stomach dropped when the door opened and Alexander stepped out, tall and imposing, his gaze fixed on them. "Mom, who's that man?" Liam asked innocently, clutching her hand. Maya swallowed hard, forcing a smile. "Just someone important, sweetheart," she whispered. But Alexander had already spotted them, and his eyes darted from Maya to the little boy holding her hand. The resemblance was undeniable. Liam had the same sharp jawline, the same gray eyes, and even the same way of frowning. Alexander's entire body stiffened as realization dawned on him. He approached slowly, like a predator circling prey, his voice cold and steady. "Maya, who is this child?" Her lips quivered as she searched for the right words, but none seemed enough. Maya's mind raced, her heart torn between fear and truth. She had kept this secret for 6 years, protecting her son from a world she didn't want him dragged into. Yet here stood the man who had unknowingly fathered him, demanding answers with his piercing stare. "This is Liam," she said finally, her voice soft but firm. Alexander crouched down to the boy's level, his expression unreadable. "How old are you, Liam?" he asked gently. 6, Liam replied with a proud smile, unaware of the tension between the adults. Alexander's jaw tightened, and his eyes flickered toward Maya. The math was too perfect, the truth too clear. He stood back up, towering over her, his tone laced with controlled anger. "Why didn't you tell me?" he demanded, his voice low but cutting. Maya's eyes filled with tears as she whispered, "Because I didn't know who you were." Alexander's mind was a whirlwind of emotions. Anger that she had hidden his son from him, shock at suddenly discovering he was a father, and something else he couldn't name, a strange sense of connection to both Maya and the boy. He remembered that night 6 years ago, the gala, the drinks, and the haze that followed. He hadn't expected anything to come of it, but now here was undeniable proof. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" he asked, his voice rough with restrained fury. Maya lifted her chin, her eyes wet but defiant. "I've raised him with love, and that's more than money could ever give," she said firmly. Her words struck him like a blow, because despite his billions, he had no answer to that. For a moment, silence hung between them, thick and heavy. Liam tugged Maya's hand, sensing the unease. Alexander knew his life had just changed forever. In the days that followed, Alexander couldn't stay away. He arranged coincidental meetings, showing up at Liam's school events, finding excuses to cross paths with Maya. At first, she resented his sudden intrusion, but she also saw the genuine interest he had in Liam's life. The boy adored him instantly, drawn to the man's strength and kindness. Maya's defenses slowly weakened as she watched them bond, though she remained cautious. She feared Alexander would try to take Liam away, using his wealth and power to control everything. At the same time, she couldn't deny the way her heart raced whenever Alexander looked at her, the memory of that night haunting her more than ever. She was caught between protecting her son and acknowledging the undeniable connection that still simmered between her and the man she once thought she'd never see again. The final confrontation came one evening when Alexander showed up at her small apartment unannounced. He stood at her door, holding a toy Liam had forgotten at his office earlier that day. Maya let him in reluctantly, her heart pounding. They sat in the living room, the silence heavy until Alexander finally spoke. "I want to be part of his life," he said firmly, his eyes locking with hers. "Not just as a visitor, not just as a friend. He's my son." Maya's eyes welled with tears, fear and hope colliding inside her. "And what about me?" she whispered, her voice trembling. His gaze softened for the first time that evening, and he leaned closer. "You were never just a mistake, Maya. And I think, maybe fate gave me a second chance with both of you." Her breath caught, and in that moment, she realized her carefully built world was about to be rewritten by the very man she had tried to forget.